Have you been thinking recently about your personal defense options? I have. Back in the olden days, just having a gun someplace in the house was considered a comforting plan for defending your home and family. Caliber didn't even really matter that much. A .22 single-action revolver was deemed better than nothing, even with the hammer resting on an empty chamber. Well, times change, people's thoughts change, and the threats change. Today there are deep and serious considerations to make about personal and family defense. Looking at the firearm is an obvious part of that, if only the tip of the iceberg. I'll confess here, and losing some cred maybe with the guys who wear knit caps in the summertime, I've never been that excited about the AR pistol form factor. I always figured if you want a rifle, get a rifle. If you want a pistol, get a pistol. And, heck, get both of them if you like. But I just had a hard time figuring, at least for me, where this form factor fit in. But I do like to explore outside my comfort zone and even sometimes force myself to work with things that I have negative notions about, because my opinions aren't worth much if they're not based on real experience or knowledge. Such recent contemplation has led me to testing some of the PDWs, or AR pistols, that are available on the market, whatever term you like to use for them. And as you can clearly see, for this particular test in this video, I chose a Springfield Armory St. Victor AR-15 pistol form factor as the specific gun to spend a lot of time with in my assessment. I have the St. Victor in .308 and I have the St. Victor in .556, and I really like the gun, like it a lot. So that part of it was pretty easy, but where I spent some time in serious thought was, what chambering should it be in? I chose 300 blackout for a number of reasons, from ballistic performance at close distances to manageable recoil and reliability. It just seems like a round very well suited for the type of results that one would want when protecting one's family in close quarters. I certainly didn't choose it because of the cost of the ammunition or the availability of the ammunition. That is a major downside. Ammo shortage issues notwithstanding, I put several hundred rounds through the St. Victor pistol. It handles every bit as nicely as the rifles in the St. line, with identical ergonomics and controls, of course, as one would expect, and it also has that same great trigger. I did have one single malfunction along the way, one feeding jam. I refed that round, and off I went without another hiccup. I also ponied up some of my patrons' hard-earned cash and did some accuracy testing with several loads of the good ammunition. The one exception to the throat punch in the budget was the Sig Sauer Elite Performance FMJ. That was the stuff in the yellow box. That ammo was provided to the channel by Sig Sauer. Sig Sauer Elite Performance ammunition has been a long-time friend to the channel, and as always, they have my sincere thanks. So I decided to shoot groups at just 30 yards. And as I said, the intent is to figure out if this gun is a good one for home defense, not for a pig hunt or long-range match. I figure with a 30-yard zero, it'll put the rounds close enough to that at just a few feet or a football field away. Even for shooting these groups, I just held the pistol brace firmly to my cheek with my supporting hand. I used a Streamlight TLR2 mounted very near the muzzle and in line with the bore, more or less. This also means there's less deviation from my zero due to height over bore issues that you would have with a top-mounted optic. But the real reason for the Streamlight laser is because I think that is the ideal setup for home defense. Most importantly, it allows you to hold the gun any way you want to or any way you need to. You don't have to align your eye with any kind of sights. For an AR pistol, I think this is crucial. The St. Victor pistol comes equipped with a hand stop, a small polymer one, that fastens via the M-LOK mounting system in the handguard. I didn't want the streamlight way out even with the muzzle or next to the flash hider to take a lot of abuse and get really dirty there, so I kept it back some. And I relocated the hand stop so that the forward support hand has a parking place that puts the thumb right on the controls of the light. I also employed a Magpul Sling in single point configuration. I fired the gun from many positions and styles of holding over the course of my various range trips and testing. I deliberately avoided shouldering the gun with the end of the brace because I think it's important to evaluate this form factor without doing that from the standpoint of a review. Mostly I just made a good connection to my cheek, and I used a nice set of WGS flip-up sights. I also used a method of employing the sling as a tension device. Basically, you pull the gun forward with your support hand, and you let the taut sling create a stabilizing force. Kind of the opposite of pulling it back into your shoulder. It actually works better than it feels like it's working when you're doing it, if that makes any sense. The hits on target were tighter than I expected them to be when I was shooting that way, because it does feel a little bit wonky, but it is a legit option. I think if you trained and practiced with that method for a period of time, you probably could become very good at it. I used the brace, of course, for one-handed or really one-arm firing. This is my least favorite method, and it's really the reason I didn't jump on the AR pistol bandwagon right from the start. It's just not a comfortable way of shooting for me, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Unless you mounted sights at a 45-degree angle or even a 90-degree angle on the gun and have a deformed arm due to some bad childhood accident that never set properly, it's really impossible to see a sight picture when you're holding the gun that way. At least it is for me. Once again, this is why a laser on the gun is a very good idea. I also tried and liked very much the hip shooting style of holding the gun. Really not quite as low as the hip, actually, just a couple inches above it, but using the inner elbow to wedge the brace into the body, and the sling, you have full control over the gun, very easy to hold it level, very intuitive to hold it level. This method is really rock solid. And again, because of the laser sight, there's no need to be staring over the barrel of the gun, there's no need to be looking through any kind of physical or electronic optic. I found it's also extremely fast to deploy to this method from almost any ready position, or even when it's hanging free on the sling.
One of the other things that I think is very important for an AR style pistol like this, inside or outside the home, but certainly as part of your home defense solution, is a sling. Right at the very back of the receiver is a single quick disconnect sling point, and I recommend using that exactly for what it's for. This allows you to be armed and ready, but still have the use of your hands, and that can be very important defending your home. There may be a lot of things you need to do. You may need to manipulate flashlights and light switches and move people out of the way, or grab pets, or there's a million things you can think of, and probably 2 million more that you can't think of, why you're going to need to have both hands free in a home defense situation. But the minute you need that AR pistol, it's right there. In fact, you can really have one hand on the low ready most of the time. One of the other advantages, I think, is being able to shoot from the hip, and that's something that you don't hear talked about very often, and even less often you hear it recommended. One of the main reasons why I wanted to have this laser out on the front was exactly for that purpose, so this gun could be shot in this position. All right, so this is going to be a little bit tricky in the daylight, finding this laser. Let's see if I can do it. Maybe if I take the dark glasses off, that might help. So it's not hitting exactly to point of aim, and that's something I may want to continue to work on. But you can see the effectiveness of being able to use that laser and shoot from the hip, and that is a very good option.
Again, keep in mind, we're talking about home defense here. The gun came with the original style SB Tactical support brace. That's non-adjustable for length of pull. It's a good quality brace, very firm, extremely durable, but not everyone's arm is the same length and not everyone likes the support to be in the same spot. So overall, I like the St. Victor pistol quite a lot. What's not to like, really? It's identical in function and quality to the rest of the St. Victor lineup, and we've already established that I like that. For me, it has more to do with whether to choose this platform versus a rifle or a handgun or some other form factor like a bullpup. There are numerous pluses and maybe just as many minuses to the pistol configuration, but I think if you approach it pragmatically and if you're honest about what your needs are and if you're honest about how well it's fitting into your plans, I think it can be a very strong option to consider. I really like 300 Blackout for close quarters combat, and this sure is an optimal delivery system for that round. It's also very reasonably priced and highly compatible with aftermarket parts. It tips the scale pretty far too, I think. All in all, Springfield Armory St. Victor pistol in 300 Blackout looks like a keeper.